It is OverDrive on this, what is it, Wednesday? Yeah.
Wednesday, Gord.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Days of the week, not my specialty. Gord Miller here with Dave Feschuk. And joining us in Edmonton, Jason Strudwick, former NHLer, broadcaster, all-around great guy. Great to have you, Jason.
I'm excited, Gord. Guys, this will be fun. Let's do this.
You know, it's amazing, Jason. I was thinking about it. One of my first gigs as a play-by-play guy, some 30-plus years ago, was a game you played for the Kamloops Blazers.
Oh, wow.
In the Memorial Cup in Kamloops.
Oh, geez, that's a long time ago. Yeah, it's actually been back since then. They had the 2 years ago the Memorial Cup was there.
Who would have thought that towering young defenseman, that strapping young lad, would someday be joining us here? But it's great to have you, buddy. And there's lots to talk about. We got a great show coming up. I'm Gord Miller sitting in for Brian Hayes off for the next couple of days. There is my pal Dave Feschuk. We've got Barry Trotz, GM of the Nashville Predators, coming up at the bottom of the hour. Lots to talk about with him, trading Yaroslav Askarov. And there's kind of a running theme that we'll talk about today. And you know, Jason, you saw it in Edmonton with the offer sheets that were signed by Broberg and Holloway. We're seeing it in Toronto with the Nick Robertson situation. And Barry Trotz had this in Nashville with Yaroslav Askarov, the goaltender, who was also a restricted free agent, but also wanted to play somewhere else. He wanted an opportunity to play somewhere else. So I want to ask you, Jason, first of all, what's the temperature in Edmonton? I mean, this team just went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. It was a great year for the Oilers, but then these two offer sheets happened. What's the mood there?
Well, it's been a really high event, 60 days for a team that went to the Stanley Cup Final. It was 2 shots away from winning it. You think about, the trades that they happened at the draft. Then you got unrestricted free agency and the days that they had with that. With Jeff Jackson, didn't have a GM. Then you bring in a new GM. Everyone's excited, or maybe some people had some reservations about that decision with Stan Bowman. He's here. Then the first thing he has to deal with is offer sheets, 2 of them, to 2 fast, young, skilled players, and they ultimately don't match them. And then on top of that, they got Leon Draisaitl contract that is, he's eligible to sign at any time. So there's a lot on the plate. So I think, honestly, I was talking to some friends today, and it feels like fans just need to take a deep breath for the Oilers. There's been a lot to take in, a lot to digest, and still a lot of work to do. You got to sign Leon, or you hope to sign before the season starts. Then you look at some of these other, do you need a defenseman? And Stan Bowman's got to get to know the organization, young players, and try to rebuild some talent in this group that isn't currently on the NHL team. So I really feel the fans are not overwhelmed, but it's been a lot the last 60, 70 days.
And, it's interesting because when you talk to players that have lost Game 7 of the final, and it is a heartbreaking, difficult thing to happen to you, because it's like getting to almost the summit of Mount Everest.
Yeah.
It's like getting, 50 meters short and then not getting there, and then knowing how hard it is to get back there. I mean, that's the thing, right? Isn't that, Jason? I mean, it's so hard to get there, and now you realize how hard it is to get back.
Well, listen. I only won a couple times in junior, and I never lost in a championship, and again, I never made to another championship after that. So I'm not being cocky. I'm just saying I don't know what the other side feels like, but I would imagine going that far, putting that much energy into something, and your soul and your heart, your body, and then you see another team celebrate not only that night on the ice, but I mean, how many times do you have to see Tkachuk run into the water in Florida and surf in that? Then they're eating, Luongo's eating, what is it, some kind of
linguine out of it?
Yeah, Italian dish out of there. Obviously, he's not counting calories anymore. So, I mean, there's a lot going on with that. And then to top it off, you now have to get going again. You got to start, heal your body, start getting ready because you want to do it again, just like Florida did. But it probably feel like a huge, long road. They would start, I'm guessing, when the players start filtering back into whatever community they are in. But now, the Oilers, in this case, Edmonton.
Well, what's funny about that is once the NHL kind of formalized your day with the cup, once that started where every player got the cup for a day, the captain gets it for 2, the manager, the coaches, they all get the cup for a day. You're bombarded with all these images all summer, every day. Here's Ryan Lomborg with the cup. Here's here's Sam Reinhart eating Captain Crunch out of the cup. Here's it never stops. Dave, you wrote today in the Toronto Star about the Nick Robertson situation.
Yes,
he's a restricted free agent. The amazing thing about Robertson is, if you look at goals per 60, 5-on-5 for the Leafs. Only Auston Matthews scored more goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 than Nick Robertson did. He didn't play a ton. He scored 13 goals 5-on-5. That's 16th best in the NHL among players who played at least 300 minutes.
Yeah.
But of course, he spent time in the minors last year because his contract allowed him to. He didn't need waivers.
Right.
But he was somewhat vocal.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I was there in the locker room. It was the day of the team picture in March, I believe, and he made a bit of a joke saying like, "Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to be in it, the team picture," because he hadn't been with the team and he got called up that day. But he was very vocal about the fact that, look, I didn't find it disrespectful. What Nick Robertson said to me and a couple other reporters was essentially, "I'm not happy. Like I want to play. And I want to play more, and I don't appreciate the fact that basically my contract, which was a contract that did not require waivers, he was one of only two players or two regular Leafs that did not require waivers, the other being Matthew Nyes. Basically, that made him the easy escape valve. Anytime the Leafs had a cap crunch or a roster squeeze, hey, send Nick down. You know, it can be Nick. And to your point, and I think, you know, if you were advocating for Nick Robertson, you would say, what has this guy done other than whenever he gets on the ice, he scores a goal? And Jason, I would say, how tough is it when you only get short bursts? You're getting 10, 11 minutes a night. When you get that little playing time, I think it's a pretty amazing skill to be able to go out there and produce. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, so, you know, from a distance, I watch a lot of Leafs games, and I always thought I liked him when he was on the ice. Now, it's different than maybe watching him live or in practice, but I always thought he was good. But to your point, what's a real challenge for what I see is when you're getting inconsistent minutes is getting into a flow. And it can even be, you know, play 2 games, sit 1, you know, play 3 games, sit 2. You never really get that rhythm of, you know, morning skates, naps, eating, game, then kind of just continue it on. And that flow does make a difference. And then, you know, kind of, you know, just more consistent line mates, and confidence, knowing that, you know, if you don't score or if you maybe make a mistake, you're still getting out there, and it's just hard to get into the rhythm. So I understand what he's looking for. I don't know how this seems to resolve, because from out here, it looks to me, Feschuk, like neither side is really going to give in. So, like, I think it'd be a poor decision, or not a poor decision. It'd be a poor outcome for Nick to not go to training camp and not be ready. Because let's just say he gets traded end of October. He's missed a lot of time, and now he's playing catch up. And it's hard to catch up when you're not, you know, maybe right now an elite player.
And I think the other point too with Robertson is it's not just this year, Freddie, that he hasn't had momentum, because his career has been interrupted by injuries the previous 3 years. So this is the first year he played 40 games as a pro.
Yeah.
This is the first season since turning pro that he's played more than 40 games. So I think that's part of it too. But I'm curious, Struddy, the reaction to Holloway and Broberg in Edmonton, if there's some blowback to them, because there's been some pushback on Robertson in Toronto, and I think there was some pushback on Askarov in Nashville as well.
I think a little bit of frustration from the fan base towards the management that this happened. But you have to understand, from an Oilers management perspective, they were trying to squeeze younger players to take contracts that work for their, not for the players, but for the team. And that is one of the few times that teams truly have the ability to squeeze players. The Oilers added Jeff Skinner. There's no doubt he upgrades their top 6. They brought in Robertson. No doubt he upgrades their top 6 as well. So they've still got Kane here. So now these guys, they were fast, young, up-and-coming players. Like, up to this point, they haven't done a lot to contribute to the Oilers. Well, that was opportunity. And in the case of these guys, they dealt with a few injuries as well. But moving forward, they were going to be a big piece. The challenge, Gord and Feschuk, that comes to is that when you're young and cheap, you're very appealing. When you're young and expensive, that their appeal isn't there anymore. You know, if you're on a $1.5 million deal for Broberg, now you're at $4.6 million. It's not the same, because now you're just expensive, right? You're not cheap and exciting. And I think that is where I think sometimes players make the mistake. And I get, you want to take as much money as you can. I get that. Broberg, there's no way he couldn't sign that. In the case of Dylan Holloway, would you rather have potentially McDavid, Draisaitl, or Henrique pass into you? And again, this is no disrespect to the St. Louis centers. They're not the same level. So what does his contract look like? Like, if he scores let's say he scored 20, 25 goals the next 2 years in Edmonton compared to maybe 10 to 15 in Edmonton. What does that next contract look like? I think that's where at times, these, well, not just many offer sheets, but looking for a higher deal somewhere else isn't always in the best interest of the player long term.
Well, and that's the point you want to make here. Like, Nick Robertson is well within his rights to want to be moved, to want to play elsewhere, to look for a better opportunity. But if I'm advising him, to your point, Struddy, I might put this into his ear and say, look, you still got to establish yourself in this league. Like, you,
for sure.
you as good as you are, like, you can go per minute and per 60, and you're really good. Like, you're as good as anybody on this team other than Auston Matthews. But you haven't done it for 82. Like 56 is a career high. And to your point, Gordy, he barely breached 40 before that. This is a guy who's had injury problems. This is a guy who's had problems with not just injuries, but with consistency on both sides of the puck. This is a guy who very clearly is not yet a fully molded 200-foot player. So I agree that the talent of putting the puck in the net is the hardest talent to find in this sport. That's just true. But you got to be able to round it out. And I think he'd be really smart here to take a short-term deal, a one-year deal, a prove-it-to-me deal. And guess what? Prove it. Prove that now that the Leafs have an opening at left wing very clearly, and they're out there looking for alternatives not named Nick Robertson, this is a perfect situation for Nick Robertson to say, okay, I'll show you one more time what I can do, and then you're going to have to pay me.
And by the way, Struddy, you mentioned, playing with Connor McDavid and those kind of players. How about the news or the visuals today of Connor McDavid and Auston Matthews on the ice together? Now, they've done this before in Arizona. I think they're over in Germany now, skating together. Now, just for a minute, I want to just imagine them as teammates.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm guessing McDavid's the center.
And I'm guessing the team, Struddy, is not located at Edmonton.
Of course, the guys are trying to say that. No, listen, I'll tell you what this is, guys. This is a complete nightmare for any defenseman to think you have to deal with two of these guys. Now, maybe a Drew Doughty would welcome the challenge, or these elite guys, but for most mortal defensemen, this is a nightmare having these two guys come down on you because both can shoot, both can make plays, both elite talents, two of the best in the world. But I think it's so cool that they get together and work together. And it'd be interesting to actually, sit down and put some truth there and say, how much do you learn from the other guy watching him? Because they're fine-tuning greatness, right? This isn't taking beer league or level 7 trying to make him a level 5 player. This is like elite trying to get better for elite. It's so cool that they're together.
Wow. Hey, Struddy, I'm telling you, man, like, there's some genius to the way the Leafs work here. They made Matthews the captain, and at his first captain skate, he invited McDavid.
Yeah, trying to get him over there. No,
That's
I love
right.
it. No, I mean, I know the Leafs. I know Leafs fan loves press conferences, right? After May 1st, there's not much going on, so they get that press conference going on to announce the new captain. But for Matthews and company, I mean, I think that there's so much for them to prove. And I think there's, outside of Toronto, I think there's a lot of doubt about what they can do in the playoffs. So unfortunately for them, the regular season, I don't think it counts as much for another team. Let's say like Ottawa. I think Ottawa's trying to prove themselves that they have improved,
right,
and that they are a team that is taking a step forward, whereas at least they've taken their step forward, but now they got to do it in the playoffs. So I think building and under Craig Berube, understanding how they have to play and how he wants them to play, which are probably different than Sheldon Keefe. Whether that's good or bad, we'll figure that out. But I think that is, to me, what the Leafs, they are, I think they have to prove in the playoffs. And that the new captain, new focus, I guess, with their captain and their new coach.
So, and I think that, the one thing I would say is that I don't think the regular season's ever meaningless. I don't. And I'll go back to Tampa in 2019, got swept by Columbus in the first round of the playoffs after having that record-setting year. Boston, same thing.
Greatest season in history.
Lost in the first round.
Yeah.
But I think what happened in Tampa is that John Cooper wanted them to change the way they played. And they spent the entire season the next year trying to do that. And I think especially with a new coach, don't you think, Struddy, with a new coach, the regular season becomes more important. They've got to prove to this guy that they can play the way he wants them to play night in and night out. And that can work.
I think more importantly than that, Gord, just to build off it, they have to believe in what they're doing. right? You can't just say, hey, we're going to buckle down in playoffs. That doesn't work. That's like, you're going to Mexico next week and you decide to go on a diet 5 days before. Like, that doesn't work. You have to
doesn't? It doesn't.
No.
That's disappointing.
Go for a jog on the way to the airport. Like, it doesn't work like that. So what I honestly, you see teams do that where we're going to work on becoming the team we want to be from 1 to 82. So when we hit 83, it's in place. It's too late. I think if you get to a month left, unless you're a team that historically has done it, you're not ready. And to go back to that Boston team that had that incredible year, like I feel that team had no adversity all year. Not a drop of adversity.
Right.
Like there was nothing. Nothing went wrong for them. So I think you come together as a team and you build off adversity. You have to have some bad things happen to you, not bad things as far as injuries or, things off the ice. I'm talking, tough stretches of play from forwards or D or goalies or the group or whatever. So you can say, okay, we can bounce back from that and get ourselves out of there. And I think that's really important. I think adversity builds toughness, internal toughness for a team.
So we got a great show. We got Barry Trotz coming up at the bottom of the hour. We got Randy Ambrosie, the CFL commissioner, coming up at 5 o'clock Eastern time. So that'll be great to talk to him about a lot going on in the Canadian Football League of late. Darren Pang, our old pal. Holy jumping, Darren Pang. TNT hockey analyst is going to join us. Jim Duquette, former Major League Baseball executive, will be with us. And Mark Ross, also an NFL executive and an analyst for the NFL Network. The NFL season just around the corner. But it's OverDrive. Gord Miller with Jason Strudwick. I do want to point out something that I don't want to call Feschuk out, and I'm going to throw myself on the coals here.
Okay.
We have a group chat, and yesterday, Feschuk committed the cardinal sin in the group chat when he inadvertently texted us, meaning to text your son.
That's right. Yeah, it was embarrassing. I mean, that's the worst feeling, isn't it? When you send a dumb text to the wrong chat. And luckily, it wasn't too embarrassing. It was instructions on how to microwave something, because apparently our parenting is so good that our son does not know how to microwave yet, even though he is living on his own at university allegedly. But anyway, yeah, sorry for that, fellas. I apologize with filling the group chat with 30 seconds on high and 10 more seconds if it's not hot enough. How about that?
I'm going to throw myself on the coals because I did something today. So my daughter's with me before she goes to university, and she's working remotely. So she's on a meeting on her laptop. And I said, I was making myself some breakfast. I said, do you want some? She said, I'd like 2 eggs over hard. So I'm good at scrambled eggs.
Okay.
They're nice and fluffy. They taste good. They're good. I had never actually fried eggs before.
You've never fried eggs?
I had never fried eggs before.
Neither have I.
I've had them lots of times. I just never done it. I like them scrambled, and it's easier. So I figured out how hard can it be. So I try 2. They're burning. They're stuck to the pan.
Wow.
So they become my scrambled eggs. It just forget it. Forget it. That's scrambled eggs. And she's at the island watching this go on, right? And she's kind of got this, what are you doing? So now I try again. Clean the pan out, try it again. And again, now I've got 4 scrambled eggs.
Oh, my. Burnt scrambled eggs.
Burnt, like bad burnt scrambled eggs.
Right.
So she said, she finally got up from her call, muted it, and said, let me do this. and the look on her face of, why is the kitchen full of smoke? Why are those eggs black? Like, what are you doing? And I had to confess, this was my first time trying it. And she said, did you ever think to ask for help?
You should have texted the group chat. We could have helped.
I could have texted the group chat. I could have asked your son.
Yeah.
Can you make fried eggs in the microwave? Actually, I think you can you?
I think you probably can. You could probably do anything in a microwave. That's the amazing thing about microwave.
So you had your parenting moment yesterday. Struddy, have you any parenting moments you'd like to pass along that is
Daily I make mistakes. It's not even, I don't know. Let's talk about things I've done right. I got him to school on time today.
There you go.
Has school started there already?
Yeah. My one son started Tuesday. Yesterday. The other 2 don't start till next week.
I'm from Alberta. I went to elementary school in Edmonton. Like, wait, what?
Before Labor Day.
What?
Yeah.
Seems wrong.
When did that start?
I don't like that.
Yeah, I can't believe it, but here we are. He started yesterday.
When did they get out?
No, that's what I said again earlier. I don't think they are. I think they get more days off. I think they get more, which is great. Just more complicated trying to figure out where to put them and stuff. And it's unbelievable. I love that.
Other news today that we can talk about. How about Scottie Scheffler? Okay, Olympic gold medalist, playing in the Tour Championship this weekend. number one golfer in the world. He was asked about what he does when he plays golf at home with his buddies who are not professional golfers.
Is there anything interesting that you do to make it equitable with your friends when you play with them, whether it might be having to play your worst ball or something?
No, most of it's just strokes.
Yeah.
Just like the handicap system. I think it's one of the great parts about our game is, I can go out there with whoever it is and we can come up with some sort of a fair match just based on the handicap system.
So what are you giving typically?
Depends on the game, but at home, I'm typically playing to a +7. I used to be a +5. They moved me to a +7. So now we got guys in the group that are getting like 2 strokes a hole, and I typically still will win more often than not, I feel like, but it's just fun. Like, it's just entertaining. You don't know, like, if you're going out there with a 12, 13 handicap, you don't know what the heck's going to happen. And for playing Wolf, there's a lot of volatility there, and it's fun.
So you might even be playing with guys who are not even single-digit handicap guys, or?
Yeah. If I'm at home, pretty much either Friday or Saturday, I'm playing with somebody I'm giving him 20 strokes. I think we're up to 20 strokes now.
We'll go to Sean.
And he takes them all.
Absolutely. If you're playing with Scottie Scheffler,
20 strokes.
So if you're a 13 handicap, you're getting 20 shots.
It's not nearly enough.
So on the 1 and 2 handicap holes, you're getting 2 shots.
That ain't nearly enough.
That's crazy.
No, this guy goes out and shoots 65, and he's had a bad day. I mean, let's be honest.
Now, I guess the question would be, which tees you're playing from?
Right.
Like you're playing from the tips?
That's good. Good point. Not the family tees, that's for sure.
Well, even if he's playing from the tips and you're playing from the whites or the forwards, whatever you want to call them, I mean, it's still not a fair match. No wonder he wins all the time. I mean, this +7 number is
He
just
said he wins
preposterous.
more often than not. How did he come home, though, and say, yeah, I beat Scottie Scheffler today?
Well, that'd be nice. It doesn't happen. I'm telling you. If he's playing at a +7 and everybody else is on an honest number, I mean, he's just too good.
You don't think so?
He beats the best players in the world on a regular basis.
Freddie, what's your handicap?
By multiple strokes.
What's your
15.
15. Okay, so you're telling me if you got 22 shots from Scottie Scheffler, could you beat him?
I think from the tips, that might be a trouble. That might be a bit of a problem. That's pretty long because he hits it so much further, right? He's way further. So if he played from the tips and I played for the next one up, like I don't know what you call them, the Blues or Tech 2 or whatever, I would give it for that. That's more than 2 strokes a hole. I should be able to beat him, don't you think?
Well, 20 shots, you get a shot a hole and you get 2 strokes on 2 holes. So, yeah, could you beat him? What's your typical score, Struddy?
About 85.
Yeah. So you'd have to shoot 85 if he shot 65 to be even with him. I mean, this is a guy. If it's an easy course, if there's no rough, and the fairways are somewhat generous, he's not shooting. Like 65 is a bad day for him. He's going to go out there and shoot 62. He'll be on 59 watch most of the afternoon. I mean, because you don't understand how good these guys are, and he's the best of the best.
That's the thing, right? I mean, on a regular golf course,
I mean,
like
if it's not tricked up, it's just child's play for him.
Then the nerves, like for me, the nerves would be so high. It's hard to putt with your hands around your throat, choking yourself out, right? Like
I played in the Canadian Open Pro. I played in the Canadian Open Pro Am one year at Ancaster. I mean, and there's people lining the fairways, like everyone, like
back up.
Like your lives are in danger,
right?
Like it's
you don't even know.
It is how
dangerous.
It is nerve wracking. It is a whole different.
So nerve wracking.
Have you done that, Struddy? Played in front of a crowd?
No, I never. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity. I played in a small, but I don't think I'd want to. I'd be so nervous. Like I love golfing, but this is the first year I've ever played in men's league, and it took me about 5 or 6 nights to actually calm down. I sculled every shot. The guys were like, "This is the worst golf I've ever seen." I used to be decent, but I don't play much anymore with the kids and stuff. But yeah, so that was men's league, playing with 3 guys that are out of shape and have bad swings. I couldn't imagine playing in front of all these studs with all these great players. Like,
Freddie, have you ever played the Edmonton Country Club?
Oh yeah.
You know the 18th tee there?
Yeah.
Yeah, at a charity tournament, I knocked one in the parking lot. Hit a guy's car.
No.
Any damage?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dented a guy's car.
You pay for it?
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
That's pricey.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
How
an
did you hit the
expensive
parking lot?
afternoon at the golf.
It's a long way. Now, so Struddy, you would know it's a long way from the 18th tee to that parking lot.
What are you hitting?
It's like 45 degrees Sideways.
But you hammered it.
Hounded it.
Like
A frozen rope.
Love it.
Yeah. So basically,
Wow.
I can't fry eggs and don't invite me to your charity golf.
wow, yeah.
Those are 2 lessons to that. So we're off to a flying start here on OverDrive. Gord Miller, Jason Strudwick, and Edmund with us. Struddy, great to have you with us. Dave Feschuk's here. We've got Barry Trotz coming up. Next, we've got Randy Ambrosi at the top of the hour. It's all coming up on OverDrive on TSN2, the TSN app, and your home speakers. Coming up at 4:30 here in Toronto on OverDrive. Gord Miller, Dave Feschuk here in the studio. Jason Strudwick. Struddy's joining us from Edmonton. Coming up, we've got Barry Trotz, the GM of the Nashville Predators, coming up, who I think win the off-season trophy. Did they win the...
Yeah, if you like the Stamkos deal, 4 years for a 34-year-old.
They've wrested that trophy away from the Ottawa Senators, who are the, I think, 2-time defending off-season champions.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Is it a blessing or a curse to win the offseason, Struddy?
Well, if you're on the team, you want your team to get better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that you're happy about that. And a fan, now I think the challenge is for it to all fit together, right? To how does it look?
Right.
How does it feel when they hit the ice and kind of get this going?
By the way, Blue Jays in action tonight. They wrap up this 4.5 game series against the Boston Red Sox.
Wow.
They had that conclusion of the earlier delayed game from June.
Which is weird because you can't actually include that game in like the recent streak, right? They won the game, but that game does not, count for. It wasn't played technically in August. It was played in June, even though it was played in August, which is a weird kind of wrinkle.
And I think one of the best things, never mind Jansen playing for both teams in the doubleheader, but George Springer hit his 7th and 19th home runs of the year.
Right. That's the weird oddity.
Yeah. Let's get to the Danny Jansen. Like, I don't understand why this is such a big deal. It shouldn't count. Like, I don't understand
Why not?
it. It's not because it's not the same. It's not the same thing. What are we talking about? The game was played months apart, and he was traded during it. Wasn't I just don't get it. I actually don't think they're sending this stuff to Hall of Fame. I don't think it would be. It should go there. It's a unique circumstance, but I don't believe it counts as what they're crediting it for.
I mean, Struddy, when the game was suspended, he was at the plate. When the game resumed, he was playing catcher for the other team. I mean, that's a pretty cool little wrinkle there, isn't it? I mean, I don't know what offends you about that.
Well, if he was traded mid-game and did that, I would be on bended knee.
Oh, that would be
boys
something.
to men.
We traded you while you were up to bat. Yeah.
You're talking about how great it was, but it's just like, I don't know. I just don't feel it should qualify for it because, I mean, there's a reason it's never happened, right? Because it's other than this special circumstance, I don't think it's really possible. So I don't get it.
Well,
I don't like it.
Were you ever part of a shopping cart deal where a guy practiced for one team in the morning and then played against them that night?
I was actually traded. I was in Edmonton. I was playing for the Islanders. Mike Milbury told me I wasn't getting traded. No, just kidding. But we go there. We fly from Edmonton to Vancouver. I arrive in Vancouver, get traded that day, play Gene Ojek the next night, play for the Canucks the next night. He's in the Islanders. And we fought. We fought that night. He beat me up promptly. And then that was it. We both carried on with our lives. So, yeah, I was the guy. So it wasn't that night, but it was
I remember
24 hours later.
At Madison Square Garden, Doug Waite practiced with the Rangers in the morning. And then at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they took his gear down the hallway to the visitor's dressing room. And he played for the Oilers that night against the Rangers.
Wow.
And I've seen, and it's happened a lot, actually. There's been a lot of shopping cart trades over the years where guys are traded to a team that they're playing that night.
Yeah. And to Struddy's point, like your point about the Jansen thing, I do agree with you on this. Like these suspended games are you blame the pandemic for that because they changed the rule, right, during the pandemic season. Yeah. In the old days, it would have just, you'd restart the game from the beginning if you didn't have a complete game, right, or a regulation game, 5.5 innings. Now, the pandemic allowed you to do these kind of suspended games. And they made the rule permanent. You can argue whether or not it makes sense, but I guess you're making a good point, Struddy. Like it is a new thing for baseball, and that's why it never happened before this.
All right, let's bring in our guest, Barry Trotz, the GM of the Nashville Predators, joins us now. We got lots to talk about with Barry, but let's start with you, Barry. Welcome to the show. Have you ever had this like a shopping cart trade or some unusual circumstance like this?
No, I haven't. But I almost last year I was talking with another GM in the morning, and we were talking about two players, and we didn't consummate the deal, but we were pretty close, and it could have happened last year, but it didn't.
It does happen more often than you think, and I guess it's unusual because in your involvedness both as a coach before and now as a manager, when you think about that, did it make you hesitant to make the deal?
No, I don't think so. I think usually when those type of deals come up, it is something that I know in the past, talking with David Boyle or other general managers I've worked with, they'd be sitting in a day before, a team was coming in a day early. They'd practice in your rink, and the GM was there, and David would walk down and talk to the other general manager, and I might see the other team pop out in practice and say hi to the coach, and then David would walk into my office, maybe an hour later and go, "Hey, I was just talking to the ex-general manager, and we might thinking about this. What do you think of this player? Because we might make a deal here." And I know those came up a few times. I don't think there's any hesitation. I think it's just finding the right fit with the teams. A lot of times those deals don't get done, but I have seen them, and they are a little bit funny. I know the players have a good time with it. When a teammate gets moved quickly in the warm up and stuff like that, they have a good time with it.
Oh, then they want to see the guy put money on the board, playing your old team right away. You got to get some cash up there.
Exactly.
Hey,
you got it.
Sprinkle that infield guy coming in there. Now that you've had a second to take a deep breath, you had a really busy offseason. It's clear that you wanted to upgrade your offense, your skating, your scoring. And with Marchessault and Stamkos, I think you've done that. So, do you talk with your coach to kind of say, okay, how do these fit together? Are you satisfied with what's happened, and you and your coach to kind of come together on this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's important that I've kept in. You've got to have a relationship with the coach where you're bringing in players, how they fit. As a coach, when someone will say, "Hey, I'm bringing in Steven Stamkos," you're excited, but you're also start thinking, okay, how does he fit dynamically with your whole group? How does he fit in the lineup? Where are you going to play him? Your brain starts going that way. But I just, we talked, sort of had our meetings at year end and talked about last year. And I've been very, very transparent in saying that last year when I got here, I don't know if this is a rebuild, a retool, but it was a something. And I just didn't know what it was. I said we could have a few years of a lot of pain, or we could be sneaky good. And, I prepared at the trading deadline. Looked like we weren't going to be a playoff team, and I was preparing, making my calls, doing all that to be a seller, and I end up being a little bit of a buyer because I promised the players if we get in, I will help out and try to make us a little bit better. So I think we did that. But what I also realized that we were a little bit better than maybe I even thought we were. And we've got a really good culture. We played Vancouver. We could have beat Vancouver. Vancouver could have beat Edmonton. Edmonton goes on and plays in the finals. So, but we lost in all honesty, in my view, and in the coach's views. We didn't lose to the Vancouver Canucks 5-on-5. We really felt that they got us with, they were more skilled. They got us one game, especially on the power play. And then one game where they got us on 6-on-5. We scored 2 goals late in the game and then won in overtime. So we have to add a little bit more skill, a little bit more of that pop when you need it, to win hockey games, especially in the playoffs. And I've been very conscious of trying to get serial winners, cultural pieces, because we do have a good prospect pool coming, and it's fairly deep. But they're going to need a little time, and I'm hoping to sort of thread the needle a little bit with getting a really good top 9 and having a good identity line. And we've got good goaltending. We've got a superstar defenseman in Roman Josi, and we had a legitimate 40 to 50 goal scorer in Philip Broberg. So I wanted in their window. Our window's short because we're a little bit older, but all these top players take care of themselves. They transition so well. They've got some years left in them. So we're going to try to thread the needle a little bit here with what we have coming. And so I was pretty active at the trade deadline this year.
So Barry, you talk about great goaltending and great prospects, and you had a guy who was a little bit of both. Maybe the top goaltending prospect in the sport, according to some people, and Yaroslav Askarov, and it was very public his demand or request to be playing elsewhere because he didn't see a path to NHL minutes with UC Saros and Scott Wedgwood above him in the depth chart, and as much as you publicly said you weren't prepared to do that, you ended up doing it. And I was wondering, when you look back at that trade and what went into it, how do you feel about losing a prospect of that magnitude, at a moment like this?
Well, you never want to lose a top prospect, but I think we got some in return, and in David Edstrom, who you look at our franchise, we're looking for center iceman. I think he'll be a good center iceman. We'll see what his ceiling ends up being. With Yaro, I understood fully. The young guys don't have the patience I think that they used to have back in the day, and I totally understand that. With Scott Wedgwood, that was something I put in place because I was worried a little bit if something like that might come about. So I sort of protected the franchise. That's my job, is to do that, and talk to Yaro about getting him enough games and brought Mitch Korn back with me, who I think is the best in the business, and to really help him continue to grow his game. I think with all young players, and you see it now, they have more power than they ever had before. They're more bold. But I could say to all the young players that have sort of spoken out, even this summer, that they're not going to play for certain franchises, or the situation wasn't right for them. Whatever they're saying, they're all saying they're ready for the National Hockey League, and I can say this to I can go down to our group in Milwaukee and ask the 20 players down there, who's ready for the National Hockey League. I'm going to get 20 hands going straight up. I'm ready. I'm ready. But you can tell me you're ready till you're blue in the face, but your play and your consistency and your preparation and all those things that make you a really good pro have to be there, and that's performance-based. And so if it's consistently there for a long, long time and you're prepared physically and mentally, then you're ready for the National Hockey League, and nothing but your play will dictate that. Yaro, I had no problem him being the backup goaltender this year for the Nashville Predators. And with Yaro, I just want to make sure he had enough games and he had enough support in growing his game to the next level so he can be that consistent star goaltender that I think he can be. And but I understand the situation, so it didn't go down the way he probably wanted to, because when it's public, I think that the team is always in a, they're smart general managers. They're not going to give you, full price sometimes, if you will, because you're working from a little bit of a disadvantage. But at the same time, I think we got pretty fair value for the situation, and I like what we got. And we've got to turn that Vegas pick into a really good player, and turn David Edstrom into a really good player, and Magnus Troma to a really good goaltender. So I think he's got the profile to do that. So, and then we've got the coaching staff to allow him to do that.
Talking with Nashville General Manager Barry Trotz. Barry, you mentioned the players are less patient than they were. They're more outspoken than they were. They have more power than they did. At what point do you have to decide whether it's worth it to push back and say to the player, sorry, we make the decisions here, not you, but also understanding that an unhappy player is no good for anyone?
Well, I think the situations around the players too. I mean, there's more options for some of the. You look at the players in the CHL have probably a few less options than a player in college and or in Europe, because they've got they go back to the KHL. The college players have a window where they don't want to go there. They just wait you out, and then they don't sign, and they sign with somewhere else. And you've seen that last couple of years with a few players. So, every situation is different, and you just have to understand the player, where the agent's coming from, and what you believe in. I know if we would have held line or whatever, we'd be fine for a little bit, but it'd be a lot of drama, a lot of all that, and that's sort of part of my job. But at the same time, I think we felt the timing was right to do what we did.
Well, Barry, you know what? Lots of excitement around your team, which is great, and we look forward to seeing how it turns out on the ice. Thanks for talking to us. Yeah,
anytime. Like I said, I keep you guys busy this summer. It's fantasy hockey until we become a good team on the ice. So you guys always do a great job. So we got to become a really good team on the ice with our addition. So
thanks, Barry.
You guys take care.
All right, there's Barry Trotz, the GM of the Nashville Predators, who have never had a 50-goal scorer or a 100-point player. Wow. They have looked since the franchise. I mean, I remember talking to Barry in the hallway in Nashville, and there was a picture of the first-year Predators on the wall. And Barry looked at the team picture and said, how did we ever win a game?
It's funny because this summer felt very unlike Nashville.
Yeah, it did.
The way they've done things, right? And that's meant, because they've always been like, we work hard, we're a team, we play hard, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, who are the biggest stars they've had?
Well, they traded for Paul Kariya, they traded for Peter Forsberg.
Yeah.
They did make
not
those
at the top
swings,
of their powers,
but not at the top of their game. They got them kind of on the downside.
Blake Wan.
They've been looking.
Weber.
They've been looking. I mean, they had stars in terms of Shea Weber, Ryan Suter,
good D,
and then great goalies.
Right, but he also talked about culture, and a lot of what's happened in Nashville is a lot about who's gone out. Right, like they moved guys out. And he's talked a lot about trying to improve the culture in that room. And it is a destination place, though.
Oh, big time.
It's a destination franchise. It's a tax-free state. Tennessee is a popular, look who lives there now. I mean, Brett Hull lives in Tennessee now. Ryan Getzlaf just moved there. Ryan Smith, the old Oiler, is there.
Yeah.
Everyone's moving to Nashville.
Taylor Swift got a place there among many other places.
There you go.
Won't
Won't be long for you, Struddy.
Pretty soon. Yeah, I've got to get my music career going, right? It's a second hobby.
We will not hear that on this program, will we?
Well, it takes a long time to warm up the organ, buddy. I can't just sing on command. I'm not Pavarotti here.
Well, I take those. You're on tomorrow too, babe. We got lots of time. And lots coming up on OverDrive. We still got Randy Ambrosi, the CFL commissioner, coming up at 5 o'clock for a lively discussion there for sure. Darren Pang, always lively, joins us at 5:30. Jim Duquette, former Major League Baseball general manager, joins us. And Mark Ross from the NFL Network. We'll talk about the upcoming NFL season. That's all coming up on OverDrive on TSN2, the TSN app, and your home speakers. Yesterday was an Oasis Fest. Today, a little Rolling Stones. This Wednesday afternoon, Gord Miller, Jason Strudwick's in Edmonton, Dave Feschuk here in the studio. We were just talking with Barry Trotz, the Nashville GM, about players being more empowered and having more of a voice and being willing to use it. Rutger McGroarty was a draft pick of the Winnipeg Jets who made it clear to them that he did not want to play in Winnipeg or Manitoba. And so he was traded this week to Pittsburgh. And he had these comments to make today about making the move.
My agents talked to them, and then I talked to them. And I wanted to be upfront and honest with them and just tell them that I wasn't going to be signing with them. And I got nothing but respect for those guys. They handled it with a lot of class. And I wish them nothing but the best, but as I said, I'm fired up to get started here now.
So, Jason, you're an old school guy. You've been around the block a time or two. What do you think about young players? Now, in McGroarty's case, a guy who's not yet played a game in the NHL, and he's not breaking any rules, right? He's not walking out of a contract. He's just saying, I'm not going to sign with you. How do you feel about it?
I don't like this trend because that's a number of players we've seen this happen with, including Cutter Gauthier, earlier in the year, move away from Philadelphia. And my reason is I think it's a real honor to be drafted to an NHL team. I think there's something to be said about going to that team and trying to be the best version of yourself for them and then try to build that team up. Now, if the team fails you and they're as far as maybe putting a win around you or whatever, then I can kind of understand it. But I think it is a real privilege. Now, I never really saw any real reason why Rutger didn't want to go to Winnipeg. Now, you guys may have heard or seen or read something differently. I didn't get the sense Winnipeg didn't understand it. So if you are going to do it, just say why. I don't want to move to Winnipeg. I don't like winters or whatever. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is, but I don't want to go to the Palomino Club in Winnipeg. Whatever it is, just say it. Just be honest and say it so that you know. In the end, it probably is going to work out for both franchises, but I don't know. I don't like this trend. Feschuk.
Well, Struddy, you can hate it, and we all, I think, hate it. You'd like to see a kid be more honored and more respectful to a franchise, but let's face it. I mean, if a kid doesn't want to be there, if I'm a GM, I don't want him there. I want to move him out. If you don't want to play for us, we don't want you playing.
That's a slippery
for
slope,
us.
though. That's a slippery slope because more guys you let out. Right now it becomes
if it's let out, if you've got a franchise where guys want out, then you got a problem that probably goes beyond one guy. If guys want to get out, then you've got an internal problem. But if you've got a good franchise that treats players right and builds the kind of culture that Barry Trotz was just talking about, then I think guys are going to want to play there. And if they don't want to play there, I don't think you want them on your team.
Hold that thought. We're going to revisit this. We'll come back, but we're at the top of the hour. We're going to talk to Randy Ambrosie, the CFL commissioner, who's got lots on his plate these days. We'll talk about Chad Kelly's reinstatement with the Argos, what's going on in Montreal and elsewhere. That's all coming up on OverDrive on TSN2, the TSN app, and your home speakers.